Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today it's FAQ number 3. So first and foremost, hope you guys are safe, given the current situation going around the world. It's all craziness all over the place. So let's start with the first questions, and I want to give a shout out to all my members here, or my subscribers that have done gratefully have commented and asked questions on my last FAQ episodes that give me work to continue this series, and there's a lot of engagement, so I hope I continue to do this. So let's go straight into the questions. From Nick last name, what's your favorite album for metal guitar tone? I mean heavy stuff like Lamb of God, Behemoth, Ola England, etc. Do you listen to any of these kinds of bands at all? Don't know if it counts as a question, but I'd also love to see what guitars you have, and have you tell us a bit about each and which of your favorites, etc. Thanks for all the great videos and tones. Juca, cheers. Regarding metal tones, I would say that one of my favorite metal tones of all time is from Burn My Eyes, Machine Head. I really love that album, and it's one of my favorite guitar tones of all time. Of course, I love Metallica tones and all other bands like Ola England and stuff like that, and even Dream Theater. I really like that crunchiness tone that he has. I think it's amazing. But if I don't know, two of my favorite bands of all time when I started playing metal were Pantera and Machine Head. So I grew up a little bit with those tones, so they stick. And Pantera is a little bit different, a different realm, a different universe, you might say, because his tone was totally out of this world, and might seem by its own fizz and stuff like that, but in the mix it really cuts out, and everything was transistor amps and stuff like that from Randall, right? So he had a great tone. But then again, I really love the tone on Burn My Eyes. Those PV, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, if it was a 5150 or 6505. I think Glenn from Spectre Sound Studios rectified that recently, so I really don't know, but it's just blistering. It's awesome. I love the greatness of that tones. But the bands that you've mentioned are also have great tones, but for me it's like a staple, you know, it's a staple. It's my main go tone, that PV tone. Regarding my guitars, let me just reread the second part of the question. What guitars do you have, and have you tell us a little bit about which one's your favorite, etc. Well, I have too many guitars to feature on this video. If you guys want me to do a separate video where I show all my guitars and what I think about them, might not be just metal specifically, because for metal, in terms of guitars, for straight metal, I only have two guitars: the Solar A1.6 and my Schecter 7-string Demon. The rest of guitars will do metal, of course, but are not designed for it. So if you want me to do a video about the guitars I use for metal, leave a comment below, and I'll try to make that happen. And thank you very much for your question. Let's go for the next one. From Dead Cat for Cutie. Seems like the band Dead Cat for Cutie. Dead Cat, yeah. I use external stereo effects, which, as far as I know, can only be recorded with the line outs of the two Katanas, 1+2. Do you think there is a big difference between the line out compared to the USB out? And yes, what is it? Thanks in advance. Yes, there's a difference. The line out represents much better the signal coming from the Katana, although it's not the ideal scenario. The ideal scenario is always having, in this case, two Katanas. If they are both MK2, better still, because you can expand that stereo signal. If one is MK1, you have to go into the MK1 and press a few buttons. There's certain things you have to do to make it work like a perfect stereo rig. But I'll tell you that for stereo recording, many times I use, is this camera in focus? Yes, I think it is. Many times I use USB with that purpose, because the stereo effects from USB are very good inside your DAW. and they sound really cool, especially the stereo delays, stereo chorals, and reverb. I think I've talked about this on a previous video. The effects that you hear from the Katana, that they are not so great by themselves. When recorded via USB, they sound amazing. So if I want to use stereo effects from my Katana MK2, I'll go straight to USB. And if I'm doing for myself, if the signal is weak, I'll increase it post-processing, and because it's weak by nature, only if you crank really everything up. And then if the tone is not exactly what I need, I EQ it until I'm satisfied with it, because the representation of the USB tone in your DAW, it's far from being the best one from all units that I've had here so far. So I hope you have answered your question. Let's go for the next one. Slamzilla asks, would you recommend using a noise suppressor pedal in front of the input or in the effects loop? Well, that really depends if you have a lot of pedals in front of your amp or not, because usually I use it in front of the amp, okay? Now, if you have pedals also in the loop, like delays and reverbs, you gotta be a little bit more careful. Some guys use one in the front and another one on the loop effects. But I would use it in front, because on the loop you might have to compensate. You don't want your delays and reverbs tails to be totally cut. So assuming that you don't have any pedals on your effects loop for effects, just use it in front, because it will do basically the same thing. Hope you answer your question. Let's go for the next one. Team Fund. Very nice. Will you do some patches or video about the Waza Air anytime? From Andrew, question, would you be open to pay requests for Boss Katana patches? I'd love you to make my favorite bandstone. So I receive this email almost, this kind of question by email almost every day, and my answer is always the same. Let me know what you have in mind, because I'll add them to my to-do list. And although I sell my bundles, artist bundles, and every bundle has artists that don't have necessarily anything to do with each other, like I can have Pantera and Sting on the same bundle, but there's also, I'm going to put here on the screen somewhere, there's also the Build Your Pack on my site, where you can choose the tones that you want and make your own bundle. I've yet to make it work in terms of adding single items to the basket, for you to buy, because that's being really complicated over my website. That's why I haven't yet implemented that feature, because it would be really cool if people could just click and add the tones instead of downloading or watching the PDF online, see all the tones that you have, and then mail me saying which bundle is, that's very important, and what tone is. I'm sorry guys, it's just the way it is for now. I hope to improve that in the near future, but for now it's like this. So Andrew, please email me on the help contact and let me know what you have in mind, and I'll add those tones to my to-do list. Because if I was going to do this for every email that I have, I wouldn't have time to make patches for a more general, broader audience, because it takes a lot of time, it's very time consuming, and sorry, and that's that. So I hope you understand, and let's go for the next question. Bart GTK, hi Juca, name the song that you've heard recently and it's that good that you can get out of your head. For me, it was an entire Sion album with Howard Jones on vocals. I am so amazed at how fresh in terms of composition this album sounds. Greetings from Poland. Hello Bart, hope everything is okay in Poland right now. And to be honest, I'm gonna be straight honest, I haven't heard this album yet, or at least hearing, like it should be. So I can't tell anything about that. But I've been a little bit discouraged a few years apart from new albums, because everything sounds the same for me. At least for metal and stuff like that, I don't listen too much. I don't listen to pop music. I listen to metal, blues, rock, maybe a little pop sometimes. Almost every genre, but more guitar oriented. And even in the guitar world, I know Steve Vai just launched the new album. and he's a great player, but I just can't listen to that. You know, it's very weird, very complex, and he has great tones, great sounds, everything is great, but you know, so I keep going back to the classics. You know, even Joe Satriani, which was my mentor, so to speak, because it was because of him that I started playing guitar. I still stick to the older albums, and one of my favorite albums from Joe Satriani is basically just the album named Joe Satriani, in which you don't have almost no effects in terms of reverb, delays, and stuff like that. In his tone, it's totally dry, just wah pedal and stuff like that. It's one of my favorite albums from him. Then he launched a few other ones that I quite like it. But lately, you know, I think the music is overcrowded, and it's very hard to be original, if not impossible, because every time you do something that you think it's original, it will always be compared to something that was already done. And that's totally normal, because even myself, when I write music for myself, I have to sometimes I'm hearing and listening to, no, this sounds like other artists or something like that, which is totally normal because they are my influences. But in terms of market, if you want to go far away and, you know, be famous and stuff like that, I think it's very hard today, because there's a lot of bands doing exactly the same thing, the same type of, especially the new metal that's going on. The drums always sound the same, the guitar always sounds the same, everything sounds the same, and the compositions sometimes are good, sometimes. I really like that guy from, I can't remember his name right now, but I'll put a picture here on the screen so you guys can see who I'm talking about. I just had you know, can't remember. It's not exactly a metal album, but it's something that I regularly listen. Really can't remember that. So I hope I have answered your question, because I haven't had the time to hear this album, but I will do and give you my feedback on that. So stay tuned. Cheers. Next question. For the next question and answers, yeah, right. Why does simply adding a wah to the signal chain, even when the expression pedal is in the off setting, change the tone? Use the MK2. I thought it would only change anything if you step on the pedal. That's kind of weird. Depends on the pedal that you have. You know, I have one Crybaby, one of those that have different modes for the Crybaby. I can't remember the model name. I'm horrible at memorizing the names of the models. You probably have noticed that by now when I'm reviewing a guitar, and I can't remember the pickup names or stuff like that, which is a shame. But anyways, and there's a sweep frequency, and when it's disengaged, the tone is totally normal. Check out your battery. Check out if sometimes the battery can be a problem. If you have connected to a transformer, I don't know, maybe some pedals will interfere with the signal, because I haven't tested too much wah pedals aside from being Dunlop. I had the Vox one, and that didn't change the tone either. So I don't know. Maybe it's from the pedal itself. Some pedals have that thing. They say that won't affect the signal in any way when bypassed, but maybe that's your pedal. Let me know what you didn't specify. What pedal did you have? So let me know what pedal do you have, or do a little search on Google and see if that's common among other players. Best of luck. Many thanks for your question. Let's check the next one. And last but not least, my question: are EQ blocks and other effects a good way to emulate a real tube amp on the GT1000? Yes. I mean, totally. I mean, they are the only way. Except if you're using IRs, and the new update on the GT1000 is amazing. I mean, you don't have specifications. You do have if you read the manual, but on the software, it doesn't say like Marshall or stuff like that, but it says on the manual what they're trying to simulate. But the signal pass on the GT1000 very different from the other units, you know. It's more of a compact thing. You don't really mess around with too many things like position the microphone. You can do a little further away and stuff like that, but not as detailed as other units from other brands. But that doesn't matter. Anything doesn't matter at all, because the tone is there, and the new cabs that were added made me drop for now all my IRs that I was using. IR from Mesa Boogie, IRs from Marshall, really great IRs from Fender. I mean, Fender cabs, Marshall cabs, you know what I mean? From great guys that make these IRs on the web. and I put them aside because the new cabs really take care of that, for me, worst problem, which is the digital fizziness on the top end. And sometimes on the GT1000, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I had this problem. I don't know if it's really related to all the connections I have here on the studio, because I have many things connected in the same place, might be that, but I was getting some overtones, not necessarily in a good way. Like if I was playing a note, I was hearing some kind of mid-tones that weren't supposed to be there. And that was really off for me, so I tried to get rid of those frequencies, but by the time I was using like 5 EQs or whatever they take to take all the frequencies, and by the time I ended up, the tone was gone. So you have to be really careful if you're inside your DAW and using an EQ to cut very narrow frequencies. Don't overdo it because you'll probably lose your guitar tone. You have to pay really good attention. One of the most, for me, great plugins is the FAT Filter Pro Q3 right now, because you can do like a cut and isolate that cut. You can only hear that frequency in a certain spot and sweep around and see what's causing the issue inside the mix, not by itself, because the guitar by itself might sound like crap, but inside the mix it can sound even more like crap. But if it fits the mix, I've talked this in a previous video for probably FAQ number 1, it will stay like that. Like I said before, some bands you can hear a great guitar tone, but if they isolate those tones, you might be shocked to learn that it's super harsh and has no bass and stuff like that, which is normal. But yeah, the EQ used to play more of a role to simulate the curve of a tube amp, you know, but the curve is not static as you play, so you have to be very careful when you're trying to dial these tones. Usually what I do right now with the new simulator is I put an EQ in front of the cab, something I've never did before, and I always cut around 6.30 or 5, I don't know the values exactly from the boss right now, or 5 kilohertz, and it's there. Doesn't go any further than that. If I want to go further than that, I use an EQ before and increase further than that, because it's possible. Although it's cutting 5 kilohertz, you can increase a little bit on the 6 or 8 kilohertz, okay? It works like that. And it won't be so dramatic in terms of harshness and stuff like that. So it is possible, but right now I'm doing that and then putting, right after that, the new FX mastering chain, where you can choose from, you know, I don't know, solo, metal, rock, I don't know, the presets that are there. It's like a general compression thing in the end of the chain, like if it was like the mastering thing. That's why it's called mastering. And I usually use it natural compression and leave the knobs almost at noon. If you fill with them a little bit, you can get more of a tube feel with your guitar. They're very important, and they do a great impact on your tone. And that associated with EQ before cutting around 6 or 5 kilohertz, and with the new cabs that you have available, not just the cabs, but the blend of the microphones that I think they are superb. You have a Ribbon 121, and then you have blend A, blend B, blend C, and etc. They give me the tones that I'm really happy with right now, and my new packs are all going straight with that single chain, and I'm gonna stop for now using IR. So I hope this answers your question. But yeah, definitely, if you haven't done the update, you probably have, but now is not so. It's important, of course, the EQ block, but not so important as it was before the update. But it's still a thing to do, okay? I use EQ like for the mid-range and stuff like that. Depends on the tone that you want to get, okay? So, hope you answer your question. Many thanks for watching this video. This was FAQ number 3. I hope more will come. I have something to show you guys. I'm gonna get it. I think I have the time for that. Or probably not, but it's something very cool that I just bought. Wait a second. Okay, so here it is. This is not a guitar, as you guys have noticed, but for myself and for my recordings, It's not very expensive. It's a Fender Jazz bass made in Mexico. It's beautifully made. No issues at all. I'm not a bassist player, but I really need to play bass for my recordings and for making backing tracks alongside when I have backing tracks coming with my packs. And I had a really cheap bass, and I could improve on the pickups, so it was too much of a mess. So I decided to get this one, and it sounds really good. So I'll probably launch another bass pack for both the GT1000 that can handle it and the MK2 if you play it lower than usual. Stay safe, guys. Thank you for watching. Many thanks for your support so far. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you on the next one. Leave your comments here so I can answer them on the next FAQ. Cheers!